Hi, welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada.
Usually you look 80s, but I look super 80s right now.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. I just got off a plane about an hour ago. So
Oh, did you? Oh my God, you're a rock star. I've done nothing and I'm like, I'm not prepared.
I really was like, you know what's so frustrating is everything's more expensive now. Like everything. Food's more expensive, flights are more expensive, Ubers are more expensive, everything's more expensive. And I was already in a place where I was just starting to like have a little money and take a little luxury in like, I'll take a car in the morning instead of like being on the subway at 5 a.m. Or, you know, I will buy a $7 bottle of water at the airport. I deserve it. Hydration is key.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we go a year and a half without making like good money. Now I'm back, but like clearly things aren't back the same way. So I'm not making the same money I was making before. And now everything is literally twice as expensive. And I was like, I don't know if you do this. I think you treat yourself better than I do. But I always go, if the Uber is less than $45, I can take a car. That's what it is. It has to be less
do
than
that too.
And then I'm not joking. The last 3 times, this time it was 60. So I took the subway home. But the last time it was $97. And the time before that, it was like $84. And I was like, every time, like audibly in the airport, I'm like, go fuck yourself. like yelling at my phone as soon as I get, because it's like, fuck you. Like that's a pair of shoes. That's like I can't. Sorry,
I remember being in New York and because I was like, what's an Uber back to your place? I was so tired because I had just flown in that night.
Yeah.
And like we were out and I was like, and it was like $75 or something. I was like, fuck you, New York.
Yeah. Just like, and we did it to ourselves, by the way. Like we were like, we don't need taxis. We'll do Ubers. And then Uber's like, hey, every time that you might need us, we're just going to jack the price up because you know it's raining and you don't want to get wet or you have to get like it's garbage.
It is garbage. I threw Johnny a party for his birthday.
Ooh, what kind of party?
Well, I didn't like throw him a party. I mean, like he invited people and stuff, but like just like a party at his house party. But I mean, you know, me and his flatmate I picked up the cake and I made vegan cupcakes and he like he made the spread. It was so funny because me and Callum, he got this whole spread of he had like veggie samosas and veggie sausage rolls and like there was like hummus and dips and like cheese and like he had this whole spread and I had like these gorgeous cakes and like the party's underway and like nobody's touching him and we're both sort of just standing by the table like what's going on, guys? Not hungry? Huh? Yeah. So
how are you doing? You look peckish. Do you would you
just
like some
throwing
food?
sausage rolls at people? Eat it.
I love the idea that you guys become like that overbearing grandmother that's just like, eat, like munch. Like that was the thing my mom used to say. Not that she was that person, but she used to talk about how like her mother would be like, munch, eat. Like,
yeah.
And everybody's like, hey, we haven't been indoors for a year. We're just
the thing is, there's nothing to worry about. All the food got eaten, everything down to the last peanut, you know. And I, you know, the cake. I'm like, I bought fucking paid on Amazon for his gold, but I mean, like a 3 and a 0.
Aww.
Oh, yeah. I bought them and I forgot them at home.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. Well, the good thing is that 3 will be used for what? You know, another 9 years. So that's good.
So I put 30 candles on a cake.
10 years.
And I'll tell you what, lighting 30 candles, it's very tricky. It gets very tricky.
It's a fire hazard?
Ow. I didn't have any long matches or anything. So I'm like lighting it with other candles and there was the whole thing. And then I'm like, all right, gather everybody. And I come out and I start singing and Johnny's not in the room. So we're all like, it's underway though. Happy birthday. He's not there. And I'm like panicking. I'm holding this cake with fire on it. I'm panicking because this happy birthday song was going to end. No Johnny in the room. And all his friends are there. Where's Johnny? Where is he? I don't know. I'm just standing here with fire. And
Did he make it?
Happy birthday. Here. Yeah. Happy birthday. And he comes in the door and everybody's like, yay. And he blows out the candles and makes a wish and makes a speech. And like, it's all good. But I was just like, why did I have a panic attack? Why weren't you there?
Where was he?
I don't know. It was just around, like hanging out with people. I don't know.
Doesn't he know that he has to be on edge, like at any moment festivities could be happening?
He knew we were doing it because when he tried to come into the kitchen, people were like, "Can't come in here, Johnny. Johnny can't come in here." And they're like pushing him away. He knew it was happening. Where'd he go? I don't know. No, it was fun. The whole thing was
Did he
fun.
have fun?
It was fun. Yeah, he had a good time, and he was nervous about it. He's never thrown himself a party before, and like, because he thinks it's an arrogant thing to do to throw yourself a party, but he was like, "I have to. It's a big birthday."
Yeah, I don't know if it's arrogant. It depends on what you ask of people, because the same thing with like a wedding or a graduation or a housewarming. It's like these are all excuses to gather, and everybody's so busy that like I love birthday parties and I love these kind of things because it's just like it makes you stop and go and appreciate that person. But when they make you do too much work to appreciate them, you're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like one of my friends, like every year, she's very loving and she has a big heart. It actually goes really well with our topic, but she makes everybody go around a circle and say what they love about her. And it would be fine.
So funny. That happened on Hacks. That's hilarious. Oh, I'm giving a speech. Well, it is my birthday.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And it would be fine if it was like 4 people and we all like knew each other, like we were all like besties from like high school or college. But it's like 20, 25 women. I know maybe 2 of them, mostly because I go to her birthday party every year. And it's just like, that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, I'm not good at this stuff. I'm going to crack a joke. I'm not going to be vulnerable about it. I'm going to be like, you're a whore. I'm so glad I'm here. Like, everybody else is just like, your thoughtfulness is what brings us together. Like, they're just all like namaste and like good people. And I'm just like,
so blessed to have you as a best friend.
Yes. And then you're like, how does she have so many best friends? Where am I on this totem pole? Like, where do I stand?
Well, Liz, how blessed are you to have me in your life?
Yeah. And every year I get notched down. Just like, yeah. But I can see how Johnny feels that way. But I also think it is a part of like opening up and letting people celebrate you, because that is its own, like our topic's going to be vulnerability.
Yeah, I did notice it was hard for me to get out of like planning mode, because I was like running around trying to get things done, trying to prepare, cleaning the house, putting up decorations, cakes, running shit, and then so like people are coming and they're just like, so how you been? I'm like, good. I gotta go light the candles. Like, you know what I mean? Like, It's just like I felt like I was a caterer. Not that anyone made me feel that way. I made myself feel that way. But
that's also how you're showing love. And I also think it's stressful when you do something for somebody else and you're like, are you having a good time? Like
in their face, are you having a good time?
I actually didn't realize how much I do that, both like the planning and the pressure for you to have fun if I do anything for you, until my older sister had a party for my niece, Scout. And we had all these it was like we had like a girls' day at the beginning of the party. So like me and my sisters we all got our nails done together. We did painting. We did all this like cool stuff together. And we made necklaces out of beads. It was like this really fun, cute day with Scout, who's now 4. But the whole time my sister's like, you having fun, baby? You having fun? And she's like, yeah. And then like 20 minutes later, she's like, baby, are you having fun? She's like, yeah. And then we're eating cake and she's like, and I wanted to be like, who cares? Like, what? She's 4. Like, does she, like, unless you hit her, she's going to have a good time. Like,
how much do you love mommy? How good did mommy do? Mommy did good, didn't she?
And I was
I'm
like,
your favorite.
But I was like, oh man, I've definitely been that person where I'm just like putting up the decorations. I was like, best day of your life, right? You're gonna get a journal about this. I hope
Did you see the decorations? Did you see? Because they're up there. I don't know. It's not like an eye shot. I just want you to know they're up there.
Yeah,
That's how it feels. Like every little detail that I thought of, I wanted him to know about. I'm like, the vegan cupcake. I made those. I mean, he was like, you made them from scratch? No, from box, but I made them.
But I had to remember you're vegan. That's a thing. And
He's
then I
not
had to make
vegan,
them.
but like everyone else is. So you have to give an
Oh,
option, don't you? I bought him a Guinness chocolate cake, like someone made, and the most delicious. So good.
sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we move on?
Yeah. Announcements.
Yeah.
I mean, do we do announcements and page? I guess we
Yeah,
should
we do, because
continue to thank
sometimes
people.
we
Yeah.
use this for regular episodes.
Yeah, that's true too. Thank you to all our Patreons, everybody that gives us money. We appreciate your support. It is just makes us feel good. Also helps us out during this difficult time where we can't afford Ubers. But
Not $100
so
Ubers. But
yeah,
help us
yeah.
afford $100 Ubers.
Yeah. I want to be a baller and be able to get home lickety split. Okay, so if you don't know, you can get bonus episodes, early access to episodes, weekly bonus episodes, control our Googles, be a Google guest, get a signed book, see certain stand-up of ours. There's so many beautiful options. You can tier up if you're only on a if you're listening to this, you've given us $15. So you can tier up and get tons of different bonuses, and we appreciate you.
Yeah. Follow us on the socials. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at 2non-doctors, the number 2, full word doctors, and at 2non-DRS on Instagram. If you have time and you feel being nice to us, leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, because it helps us get seen and it helps us feel good. We share it on our socials and we love it. And yeah, that's it for that. And then I'm doing my album recording at the Bill Murray in London. If you're in London, and you can make it on Monday, August 30th. It's a bank holiday, so you're not doing nothing. 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. are the 2 shows, and tickets are £8 in advance, 10 at the door. So get them in advance, and you can get them on angelcomedy.co.uk, or go to my website, mariashahada.com, and it'll have a link at the top of the screen. That's probably the easier way to go.
Go to our album recording. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
I really wish I was going to be there.
Me too.
Your laugh is on at least one of my albums.
And it's only fair. Fly out here.
I know. This is for August, so I don't have too much going on in August, but I start touring again in September and October. All my tour dates are on my website, and I'm still adding stuff every week. So if you don't see your city, you can sign up for my mailing list, and you'll get a little alert when I am going to be in your city. So you can sign up at lizmealy.com. And fan mail.
Yeah.
Okay. I picked a Patreon fan mail, since this is for the Patreon. And it's our old buddy Cregor. He always has the most. He just writes in with the best stuff. So Cregor writes in. He responded to your Let's Get Personal question about bra hygiene. Yeah. So Cregor writes, bra turnover always confused me. I've had an older sister who, like my mom, always just did the sniff test. If it smelled weird, then it went in the hamper. Thought that was normal until I started dating. Met a woman that never washed their bra ever. Most wore them once or twice, and then washed them. Some went a month or 2. I dated one girl that only washed her bra if it started causing acne. But for how expensive a comfortable bra costs, I never understood risking them in a washing machine, especially ones with underwire. Very insightful. I was like, this is the whole gamut of probably every phase I've actually gone through with my bra.
Yeah.
I've been every type of person. I've been the like wash it every other day person. I've been the wash it right now. I'm all like, ooh. I've also used to hand wash my bras and like take really good care of them. And then I just got to the point where I was never washing them, and I was like, fuck it, it's going in the washing machine. So I put it in a little baggie. It goes in the washing machine. I will never dry a bra. That's never going to happen. That's really how they get mangled. Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know. I just don't have care for them like other people do. I just throw it in the washer and dryer. Like when it gets mangled, jangled, I will just get another bra.
No, they're too expensive. And also when you find a bra that fits and it doesn't hurt you, like it just feels good. It's so like, I cherish it. Like it's gold. Like it's the same way that, like, when sometimes you come over and you try to borrow something, most of the time you'll be like, can I borrow this? And I'm like, absolutely. And then sometimes I'm like, I give you like a speech where I'm like, Maria, if this
Yeah, when I
doesn't
get
come
the
back,
speech, I go, forget it. It's
yeah,
not
you're
gonna
like,
be
I
fun
can't,
for me
I'm
to
not
wear
responsible enough for this.
it.
And that's
Yeah.
that's kind of how I feel about my bra every time I'm about to wash it. I'm like, don't let me down. Like, I like you. I like you as you are. Like, I want to have
Yeah,
you for at least 4 or 5 years.
I don't get attached to anything because I lose so much anyway. So I just,
Yeah, I get that.
you'll
You
always find a new bro.
you have an openness to clothes that I don't. Like, most of my clothes, I have clothes from middle school. I genuinely, if I like you, I wear you, and you're mine forever. I've been like, you know what I mean? I'm not growing. I'm like the same size,
Mm,
and I like being comfortable. Like, I
mm.
like I like everything worn in. This headband, I've had this headband for like 10 years.
Yeah, we're so different. Aw,
I'm also
Googles?
trailing behind you, picking up the stuff you drop. Like, that's
I
also
know,
very.
I know. I can't believe I ever left you and went to a different city. So stupid of me.
I just had this really funny image of like you going down the aisle and you have this wedding dress with, like, how they have the train in the back, but
Mm.
in the train is like all the things you've dropped over the years.
Yeah, that would be awesome. You just picked up and never told me. And
Yeah,
all
yeah.
for
There's like,
this day.
it's just like cords and sweaters,
Yeah. Um,
and Metro cards.
yeah. Oh God, so many, so many.
Um, thank you, Cregor. We always appreciate you.
Yeah.
Googles,
Yeah.
Googles. I'll do mine first since you
Go
are.
for it. No, I know what mine is, but go for it.
Okay. Okay. This was okay. I was in Atlanta, very hot. Like, truly, I would like walk to a Panera, to a Starbucks, just to like
It's
get a
so weird.
beverage.
Like a city in the South they call hot Lana. So it was hot, was it?
Yeah, it's crazy. Nobody teaches you this kind of stuff. But it was, because it's, what's weird about it is it's been 90 degrees in New York and it's 90 degrees there. It's not the same 90 though.
Mm,
Like, truly I waited for a bus and I got burnt. I waited for a
damn.
bus and my shoulders got burnt. Like, that's
Oh my
insane.
God.
So, uh, what was I saying? Oh, okay. So anyway, but I was still drinking a lot of water. I felt pretty hydrated, but I did 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday. And by the end of each show, I had this white line on my lip. My sister used to get this all the time. And I know it's from dehydration, but I don't understand why it's white. Like, that just
Mm.
never made sense to me. So I was like, and I get really insecure about it because I can almost feel it start to develop sometimes when I'm on stage, and then I'm like, my lip. Luckily, I put a mask on
Can
because
I
I'm
guess
doing
before you say what it is?
yeah.
So like the layers peel off and together they're pigmented and they have a pink, but like separately they're almost clear. But so when you have just like a little bit of layers peeling, it just together looks white. That was kind of a dumb explanation, but
No, I don't think it's dumb. I did see something in my research, that was like, sometimes it is like the stuff from your lips, but this specifically, it says if you're dehydrated, your saliva can become thicker and more like a more concentrated mixture of like the substances, and the white ring around your lips is probably a combination of mucus and electrolytes, including salt. So really, it's
oh,
all exactly, and that's
wait,
why
sorry.
when
So
you're
it's not in the
dehydrated.
middle of your lip because I used to get
Oh,
like peely skin on my
they
lips because when
said,
I was a kid,
yeah,
but
mine
it's
is usually like,
around.
sometimes it's around. I've seen it around. Mine
Oh,
is usually in the middle of my lip.
okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll just like, my older sister used to get it all the time, especially when she did gymnastics. So I was very aware of it. And I'll get it sometimes, but like, I really was like crazy hydrating. And I was just so shocked that every time I got off stage, I would have that white. And like I said, I've always known it was dehydration. I just didn't understand why it was white, which I just thought was
Mm.
weird. So I learned something.
Weird, and that is weird because you were hydrating. So what the fuck?
It's just too hot
I
there. Hot Atlanta, too
I
much for me.
what's like my actual Google? I think it was. So basically, I was wondering about the color of egg yolks because in the UK, like you'll go to a restaurant and the egg yolks are orange, so your scrambled eggs will be orange and not yellow. But in the US, obviously, I'm used to yellow eggs,
Yeah.
and so I think I was wondering, like, does it mean that I thought it was because the eggs were like from farmed chickens, you know, the ones that are like cooped up and squashed together and
Oh, like you're saying
diseased.
there's shittier chickens in the
They were
US 'cause
unhealthy. Yeah.
yeah.
And so I just thought like egg yolk. Oh, that's part. So it's like what does the color mean? Basically, what does the egg yolk's color mean? Um, and sorry, the answer is many nutrients. So like so there's like vitamin D, E, K, and A, and all kinds of shit in these things. So, but the nutritional color is not responsible. So the nutrient content isn't responsible for the color. So it's a big misconception. The color of the yolk has very little to do with its nutritional content. Actually, yolk color depends almost entirely on pigments in the foods chickens eat. So because I think
Oh.
our chickens in the US eat corn, like a lot of corn and cornmeal or whatever.
Yeah,
And like
like
corn's
probably
a
not the
pale
correct
yellow,
diet for a chicken.
but it is a diet. But yeah, but because it's a pale yellow, the egg yolks are yellow and not because they're like lacking in nutrients, like I thought.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
I
I
thought that
always
was interesting.
yeah, I've always known that a brighter color egg is a like a healthier egg though.
Yeah, but it's probably a healthier chicken because they're not like mass produced and eating just corn and bullshit. So like
Yeah.
say you have organic chickens, they're running around, they're eating fucking like duck liver. I don't know what they're eating, but like what would be an orange color egg? Um but yeah, anyway, whatever color the yolk is, it's the same nutrition. It just depends on the chicken's food that they're
Okay.
eating. Yeah.
Interesting. I always like that in the UK they don't refrigerate their eggs. Like that blew my mind.
Yeah, it blows my mind. I like to not refrigerate now because I can.
It saves room in your fridge and I don't know, it just makes me whenever I keep cuz like you don't have to refrigerate them until you refrigerate them. So if they're already out on the shelf, then you just keep them out. But that's like my favorite part about the UK where I'm just like guys, I'm hip. I keep my eggs on the counter.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Because people in the US are used to yellow colored eggs, a lot of the times they might be closer to pale and like almost white, but they'll add in yellow food coloring so that you feel better about the food you're eating, the eggs you're eating.
They do that all like with salmon where they like dye it pink so you
Yeah.
feel like it's a healthier salmon.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like so like powdered eggs or like that egg stuff that comes in a carton or whatever.
Yeah.
That stuff it always makes me sick. Like it's whatever that is. Oh, I don't know where I heard this or learned this, but when you go okay, you know when they have like an omelet station at like a hotel or whatever, they'll
Yeah.
have a couple of like cracked eggs on the table, but they always use a somebody tell me where I heard this. They always use like a big bowl under the thing and that's all powdered eggs or that's all like you
What?
have yeah, yeah, like you should actually never get an omelet. You should get like the what do you call it?
Sunny side up or something, or like fried
Yeah,
eggs?
something like that where it's an actual egg. And I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense."
Yeah. That's
Because
crazy.
sometimes I'll get sick from those and I'm like, "Why am I getting sick from this?" But I learned from doing military tours that absolutely use powdered eggs or like egg concentrate or
That's
whatever.
probably why they have like specifically omelet stations and
Yeah.
not hmm,
Yeah.
and not just egg stations. Cool.
Psh, psh, we learned so much about eggs. All right. Let's get personal.
Yeah.
Well, a cat pen. Enjoy that. Okay.
No.
My question is what's something from quarantine you hope will stay?
Elbow tap. Hello.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
already getting people shaking my hands and I like literally
I've been hugged so many times. People just kiss you on the cheek like it's not the kiss of death. It's
yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy to me that you would still do that in this day and age. I was like, should I even have Johnny blowing out candles for his birthday? And I took a little survey, a mini survey of the people in the room. Most people were like, is Johnny the only one blowing out the candles? I was like, yeah. And they were like, it's probably fine. You know, like
Yeah.
I always thought that was
Well,
disgusting before.
yeah, you're just spitting on the cake. You're basically like christening the cake with your saliva. You're like, enjoy my saliva. You know what we did? So we always do a summer birthday party. So I did that the previous weekend and we celebrated my two nephews' birthdays that are in June and July, my birthday, my brother-in-law's birthday, and then my sister's birthday. So it's like a June, July bash. And so my mom got all the little numbers. So it said like think my brother-in-law is like 46. I'm 36. Cooper turned 7. So it was like, but it was everybody's numbers, and then they got handed their numbers and they blew out their individual numbers.
Yeah.
I thought that,
Oh, that's
yeah, I thought that
nice.
was cute. It was very funny to watch a 2-year-old just be like, what am I supposed to do here? Like he was
I
trying to eat a
just
candle.
I just feel like the elbow is just much more. There's a lot of ease in the fist bump and the elbow. It's easy. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about like, is it weird to shake a hand? Like you don't have to worry about how hard you shake someone's hand or if they have a limp hand. One more
So I
thing.
love, oh, sorry.
And there's no like, do we hug or shake hands? Right? That was always the question. Do we hug or shake hands?
Yeah.
It's neither. This is
Yeah.
just,
Everybody fist bump.
yeah.
I agree. I kind of wish it was that universal. Everybody fish bumps. The whole world should do it.
Oof.
2 things. I wear a lot of rings, and when a guy like
Oof.
crush, like it literally hurts. Like literally my rings, like I've shaken a hand of a like just like that very masculine guy and been like, ah,
Yeah.
like
God.
genuinely hurts. And then also, have you had this happen where you shake like the host's hand and it's like sticky or something,
Ew.
and then you have to go do stand up, and the whole time you're like, my hand's sticky,
Oh,
like
it's horrible. I hate being sticky. I went to
hate it.
a cafe the morning after Johnny's party with a few people. We went to brunch. Immediately sticky. I don't know why. I sat down and it was just like there's sticky all along my arm, sticky on my bag. I'm like, what was sticky? When did I sit in it? I hate being sticky. It
I
grosses me
can't
out.
focus. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
focus until it's solved. I cannot do that.
Yeah.
Um, I want Zoom meetings. So I did
Oh
a
yeah.
Zoom TV appearance right when we just did the Arlington thing. I did like a daytime TV thing to advertise that I was going to be in Arlington, and I did that via Zoom. Then I just had a general meeting for like acting and stuff, or actually more like writing via Zoom.
Yeah.
I just we all like, I'm sure London's kind of similar, but I know you remember it from even New York and LA. You have a meeting in the middle of the day and it's important. You put on the makeup, you do everything. So you go into the city at like noon, you do this meeting, and then you have to make this decision. Am I going to just kill time in the city for a couple hours? Am I going to come home for like 2 hours? And now it's just like this back and forth. And I'm just like, this is such a waste of my goddamn time. And I
Yeah.
hate doing it, but you can't say no. And like, nobody's going to have a meeting at 6 p.m. so that you can then go do spots. Like, it just
Yeah.
sucks. And now I've noticed it's so much more common for it to be a Zoom meeting. I've done maybe 2 in-person meetings in the last year and a half, and I love it. I love it
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
It's I do wish I'm doing a lot more self tapes, and I realize that like they're missing my charm. You know what I mean? Because you do the like the slate, you're like, hey, Liz Mealy, I live in New York City, I'm barely 5 foot. Um, but there's no like it's just very, as opposed to you're in a room and you're like, charm, 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 charm.
Yeah.
And then you do your thing, and that makes up for your lack of
Oh, I
ability.
think self tapes are so much better because you can give yourself as many takes as you need to get it right. When you're in the room, they make you go 2 3 times and they're like, thanks, that's
Yeah,
it.
I do agree with that, but I was never gonna get it. I'm only gonna get it with charm. That's where my
Okay,
abilities
cool,
is.
cool.
Yeah.
um,
So fist bumps, elbow taps, Zoom meetings. Let's keep them.
yeah, yeah,
I feel like that's
definitely.
that those like lists they do on late night where they're just like, and what are we
Top
gonna keep
10.
from? Yeah. What are we gonna keep from quarantine? It's Zoom meetings.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like coaching has been a lot easier because I could just Zoom with people now, and it's like if they want to meet up, I'm gonna be like, charge you like triple for that meetup.
So,
What? I can't
there's
believe I
a
was ever doing
there's a
that.
leave the house tax that is quite
Yeah.
expensive. You want to get into our topic?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm excited about this topic. It's vulnerability.
Hmm.
I'm sure the answer is yes. You saw the like famous Brene Brown TED talk about vulnerability, right?
I don't connect with Brene Brown. I don't know what it is. I've tried. I've listened to her TED
Interesting.
Talks. I've tried to read her books. I just do not connect with that woman, but like her topics I'm interested in.
Yeah.
There's nothing, I just can't remember a thing she says.
Okay, I want to get back into that, but just for so everybody has some context. I would say she's the one that really made me kind of understand my lack of vulnerability in certain areas of my life, but her analogies and how she presents emotional ideas has been quite awakening for me. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
right way to say that, but she has literally the most viewed, most famous TED talk. I think it's just called Vulnerability, but it's Brene Brown. Vulnerability probably came out 13 years ago. Like, we're talking about early TED Talk when it was just like 7 people. She's written so many books. She has a Netflix special about her stuff. But I would say her best talks is Vulnerability. And then she actually did a 20-minute talk for like the Oprah network or the Oprah channel about friendship and connection, which I also think we've talked about early and I connect with. And I've read, I think, 2 out of her 5 books. She has one on shame. We should do an episode on shame. She has one on shame that I
Haven't
cried.
we? That's like shame is, we either
Oh,
wrote it down for a topic or we have a lot.
I think we need to look through our topics because at some point we're going to be like, we should do one on feet. Like, just.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Oh, just in general, I don't think I understood really what vulnerability was and just how little I put it out there in every aspect of my life. I wasn't vulnerable with friends. I wasn't vulnerable with people I dated. I had some vulnerability on stage at that point 13 years ago, but we're talking about like toe in the water vulnerability. And she just really made me kind of open up my mind and understand what it is and just how scared I am of it, to the point where I still see my issues with it. And
Yeah.
just, she defines it as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And she also made me understand like vulnerability shame, which is like when you say, like when you really do put yourself out there and then immediately you like regret it and you're like scared. Like a good example is like when I was young and I was starting to connect with people and being a little bit more open about mental illness in my family, something I really didn't talk about, let alone just how bad it is in my family. And this is before like my brother had issues. I remember telling somebody that I was like starting to become close with, but we were talking about mental illness. And I was like, oh, you know, both my grandmothers were mentally ill and they committed suicide. And we had this beautiful talk and this person was super supportive. And for a week, I just felt like a loser and like they were somehow going to judge me and that they weren't going to ever talk to me again. Like I just could not handle the fact that I told them this thing I probably had only told like 4 people in my lifetime. And I still experience that in some levels, not even with big stuff, because to me that's like a big thing to be like, hey, my family's nuts, so
Yeah.
some darkness over there. It'll be just like being really honest about something, and then I'll be like, I should not have been that open with that person, or I don't know enough about that person to know if they're going to take care of that information in a way that makes me feel safe.
I always do that. I always feel like I have a connection with someone and then I open up and then later I'm like, what? I didn't know them well enough to say all that. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
You know?
And I get really scared. And I think, and she also, like I said, has TED Talks about, or like this Oprah talk about trust and how you build up trust. And what I've really learned is when I was what I thought was vulnerable, I was actually just dumping. So I think there's something very different between dumping and being actually vulnerable. So
It's so funny when I do longer comedy sets, I feel like I'm just dumping rather than like having vulnerable comedy. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like it's so, I shouldn't bring it to comedy, but it's just a weird, I like how like that distinction is so slight.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the way I would define the difference, and this is like my personal definition, is dumping is you just putting something on somebody without asking, without really understanding or having like a real connection or knowing what that connection is, and not really allowing a connection to even build because of it. So it would be like if, you know, let's say I'm going through a divorce and I'm talking to some guy at a bar and I'm just like, and I tell him all this stuff. One, does that person have the ability to hold all that? 2, am I allowing them to be back and forth with me about maybe their dating woes or their past divorce or whatever? And then is it making us connect closer? Or am I literally just being like, my life sucks and fuck my wife and da, da, da. In this scenario, I'm a dude that's divorced. cool one. Um,
I've noticed that
oh,
in my examples, I'm always going for the male, and I'm like, why am I always male in my
yeah,
examples?
like I don't know what I'm talking about. As opposed to vulnerability, I'm not saying you have to already be like besties for 20 years or something like that, but you in that moment you are on the same page, that person's willing to be open, that person's open to listening to your vulnerability. There is a connection that can be built off what you're talking about or what you're sharing. And it is scary, but there's something honest and transparent and you're sharing, as opposed to just like throwing it out there and just whatever happens. So I think vulnerability sparks connection, as opposed to dumping um just is like a release, and is there's not a connection that can be built off it. And I think early Liz dumped, and I would hide. I was the complete opposite of vulnerable. And then when I did open up, it was like a dump, and nobody, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want you ever bring it up again, I'm like scared that I even said anything, this never happened. And if somebody wasn't my best friend after that dump, I was resentful, I was angry, I felt ashamed. As opposed to vulnerability, I just feel like it can build you, it's what makes relationships, it's what builds connection, it's what makes you see yourself, but it's also what other makes other people see you. And it's truly the foundation to connection. I don't know how to say that any better.
Yeah. So, but like, I mean, the thing is I feel some people are too vulnerable. Like, you get on social media, people has like a really long post about like how they're upset and, blah, blah, blah. And maybe like they just sort of dump in a really long form what's going on with them. It is sort of like dumping. You don't have to read it. But like, I just feel like too many people are too vulnerable when it's like undiscerning who's reading it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
Facebook is not vulnerability, it's dumping. It's actually one of the things I've always hated about Facebook, or like it's this, you have to listen, and your options are I'm so sorry for your loss, that really sucks, if you don't call me after reading this, you're a bad friend. Like there's all these like unspoken rules of, I'm putting myself out there, but in a way where you have very limited options. Also, can you really, and this might be a general question even for like the vulnerability I feel that I do with my stand up, but are you really being vulnerable when you throw something out to the masses and then you get this mass reaction back? Is that real vulnerability, or is that just attention? You know what I mean? Or is that getting a
yeah,
high
but
off
that's what I
feeling
wonder. Like,
seen?
what's the difference? Because it is, you are kind of sharing what's really going on with you, and you're not putting on a front, but it is, I mean, it is for attention. That is like, you just want what one of my friends wrote something that was along the lines of feeling really depressed on Twitter. So I texted him and I said, "Hey, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I was like, "All right, well, like, is something going on?" Like, and I prodded him like maybe 4 times. And there's a point where you're doing it too much and you need to leave them
Yeah.
alone. Why
Yeah.
did you put it on Twitter?
Yeah.
Unless you just wanted people to be like to do exactly what I just did.
Yeah. And
It's
I think
infuriating.
that's, it's infuriating, and also it's actually, I think it's actually emotionally set, Facebook is emotionally set people back, because now something happens to you and you don't reach out to a friend, you don't even reach out to the person that did it to you. So it could be a fight you had with another friend, it could be a fight something that happened at work, whatever. Instead of going, you go, fuck these people, I was at work and they said this to me, and then you have a chorus of people being like, fuck her, I can't believe she did that to you, you deserve better. And then you're like and like, that's not connection. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, how is that not just being on a soapbox saying how you feel, and then again you have 4 or 5 acceptable reactions to it? As opposed to real vulnerability is, this thing happens to you at work and you go up to the person and you go, hey, I don't know if you meant to say this, but it really hurt my feelings, and when you said it, it caused me to feel this way, and I actually don't think you meant to do it, but I haven't been able to let it go, and I just wanted to talk to you about it. And
Yeah.
who knows, that person might be like, go fuck yourself, But that's vulnerability. That's saying I was hurt. I feel triggered or alone or sad, and I need you to understand that, so that maybe either you'll stop doing that or we can get closer, or what have you. But to complain about something or complain about your life or be like, oh my God, this person has cancer and life sucks and cancer sucks, and you're just like, that's just venting. That's
Yeah.
just dumping. That's not. And there's clearly exceptions and blah blah
Do you
blah,
think the
but
same is the same for being a comedian too? Because I feel like we're pretty vulnerable. Like I'm on stage telling you pretty like personal stuff, but is that the same as like putting something on Facebook?
in some ways I think it is. I actually like, I do think we are being somewhat vulnerable, but again, there's a limited reaction to what I want from you. First of all, the first reaction I want from you is laughter. I tell
Hmm.
a lot of sad jokes. I hate when I hear "aw."
I told you I had that set the other day where they went
Oh,
oh like they kept doing it and then they were being funny about it and I was like I've just been completely undermined. Like this
yeah.
isn't gonna yeah.
The worst sets I have are not bombing. It's when people feel bad for me.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
no. That's not why I do stand up. And that's the other thing is like, I get so frustrated. Talk about Facebook being like this weird dumping culture. I wrote when Pasta had cancer for the first time, I wrote a funny joke about her having cancer. And I was like all excited about it because that's how I heal. That's how I process sadness. And I got inundated with comments and personal messages and text messages that are like, I'm so sorry. I hope she's okay. Are you okay? Da, da, da. And I was like, no, I'm not okay. My joke is bombing. Like, of course I'm not okay. That was hilarious. And
That's
nobody can see the
hilarious.
hilarity because Facebook is so toxic that if you put it on Facebook, it's not seen as a joke or as work or humor. It's seen as, oh, I have to say I'm sorry or reach out to you, or this is a cry for help. It's not a cry
Hmm.
for help. I have friends. My friends knew she had cancer months ago.
Hmm.
This is a joke after I've processed what I am really sad about with my friends.
Yeah.
But there is some vulnerability to putting your shit out there, but if you don't do the real work, if you don't do the real connection with other people on whatever you're being vulnerable about, then yes, it absolutely is just Facebook dumping. And in
Yeah.
some ways I have versions of that. I know I have jokes. I think my dating stuff I've processed pretty well with my friends. I'm pretty good about talking about my friends with that stuff in the moment. I mean, half the time you're the one that's like, write that down. I know you're crying, but write that down. um, you're like, when you're done crying, this is going to be a great joke. And I'm like, thank you for believing
I
in
wait for the
me.
sniffles. It's like popcorn. I wait for the sniffles to get a few seconds apart before I say that.
Yeah,
She'll
yeah.
be like, "Ah, ah, ah," and then it'll be like, I'm like, okay, you're good enough now. You should write that
Okay,
down.
okay, just before, use the tears and your eyeliner fading and make that into a joke. Um, no, and I do feel like the honesty I feel and some of the things that I share are vulnerable. But what I have learned is if our stage presence, if our jokes are vulnerability, then why was I able to be vulnerable on stage way before and a lot longer than I ever was in my personal life? And personal
Mm,
life is where there's real connection. You know, at the end of the day, I go home, I go to a hotel room by myself, I go home by myself. And that's why comics drink, that's why they do drugs, that's why, you know, they have all the problems that they have, because that kind of vulnerability isn't real connection. It's some form of connection, but it's not real connection. Where I've felt and had to do the real work is talking to people, talking to the people that I'm actually talking about on stage, or talking to the people around me that I know love me and be like, I'm not okay. You
yeah.
know, I am, you know, I have these jokes on stage and they're getting laughs, but I feel really lonely, or I feel really bad about myself, or you know what, I have been depressed lately and I'm not really sure where it's stemming from. Like that's where you're really not only putting yourself out there, but you're allowing people to be there for you. And isn't that real vulnerability? Like being open enough to accept help, being open enough to not be perfect, being open enough to look or feel like a failure and being honest about it. So I think of like my dad is very much like keep up with the Joneses kind of vibes. You know what I mean? So he was my dad always says really nice stuff about his kids behind our back to strangers. Like if
Yeah.
you sit next to my dad at a diner bar, he was like, my dad's very friendly. He'll be like, oh, I have 5 kids. Oh, Liz, she's like famous. You know, Teresa, she's doing all this stuff. She makes great children. Emily, she's working her ass. And then he'll go home
She
and be
makes
like,
great children.
she does. My sister's made some great children.
Yeah.
But like he'll talk us up because I think he knows on paper we're good kids. But I think on the other side of it, my dad doesn't really know how to connect with us. And so I don't know if he fully feels that way about us. So he wants people to be like, my kids are the best. But my dad doesn't really know how to connect with us. He doesn't know how to be vulnerable. And so he doesn't actually feel what he's saying to people. He just wants people to know that we're successful because that's important, or, you know, that we're not murderers or whatever it is that he gauges as a successful human.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I've struggled with, is that I thought for years I was being vulnerable on stage, but I wouldn't let anybody help me. I wouldn't really let people know when I was not okay. I had trouble accepting love. I still kind of struggle accepting love in a lot of ways. And I still feel a lot of shame sometimes when I put myself out there. And I'm getting better. I think some of it's intertwined with that being perfect or people pleasing. Like, I'll be there for you, but I don't want to burden you with you being there for me. I mean, there's so many dynamics to it, but I think the truth of the matter is that we were heading towards a place of vulnerability, and somewhere social media and what have you has kind of made us have this like pop version of it, or this like distorted version of it. And now it's just, people think dumping is being open, and it's just not.
Yeah. Well, how is there like a way to practice being more vulnerable?
It's a good question. That's where it's so, to me, it's such a multi-step. I think it's like the hardest skill. I genuinely believe that. I mean, maybe it isn't for people that were raised in like a loving home where there was a lot of trust, but I think for everybody else that wasn't raised with this foundation of trust and love, it's extremely scary to just be, like, I'm scared just when I like go on a date with a dude to be like, oh, I'd like to see you again. That is so vulnerable, to be like, I care, to say I care, even in the smallest of saying it. Even early friendships, to be like, you know, I'm pretty open in the beginning where I'm like, do you want to get coffee? But each time there's a little bit of rejection, I like, it's a baby rejection, and I pull back like 75%, because it's so scary that you're like, they said no to coffee. I don't want people to I can't be here anymore. I can't.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
So I do think it's learning to be uncomfortable and being okay with boundaries being set and rejection, and knowing and not taking things personally. I think the best work I've done for myself in vulnerability is not to take things personally, and that people's reaction to you is often more a reaction to themselves. And that showing up for yourself, however you do it, is a form of vulnerability. And if someone else can't show up for you, it doesn't mean to pull away, and it doesn't mean to shut down. It just means that that person can't show up for you. And I'm still constantly learning that lesson. And I think it takes time and steps. And, you know, there's some people, like a good example is our relationship. I feel like we clicked, you know, I barely remember at this point, but I feel like we clicked pretty easily, and we built a trust pretty easily. I think we both are just very loving, trusting people. And I never felt like I couldn't trust you. Not to say, but like clearly there were steps towards it. So I don't feel scared when I share stuff with you. You've disagreed with me. You fought me on things. You've made me think differently, and you've made me also fight for how I feel. Like we're open enough that we don't always have to agree with each other. But I think that kind of friendship takes time and is a real connection. And there are people that I've gotten to the same place I have gotten with you, and it took years, and it was a lot harder, and it was a lot of like 1 step forward, 3 steps back, that kind of thing. So also knowing that not every connection is going to be this like straight, like, I don't know, I trust them and they're the person that holds all my secrets.
Yeah, definitely. Well, should we wrap up? I have
Yeah.
to pee.
I've had to pee the whole time. The whole time.
I'm like dying. I'm like about to burst.
Yeah. This is what we do for you guys. We're holding in our pee. I would love, and I will say this, we have very vulnerable people that write to us. Like we actually get some like really beautiful emails and thoughtful things that they're sharing it with us. And I think in that phase, it's a baby bubble of trust that we're building with our fan base. I would like to know like how people learn to be more vulnerable and what are some examples and things that clicked or things that you have to remember when you are being vulnerable, just like we were kind of sharing about like that vulnerability shame and how scary and how you have to kind of start to get comfortable with that and be okay with that feeling. But I would love people to write in and tell us about like how they've learned to be more vulnerable or be okay with it, or who are some good examples in their life that show real vulnerability. But you can write to us. Where can they write to us, Maria?
At 2nondoctors@gmail.com. That's the number 2 non-doctors@gmail.com. And thanks for listening all, and see you soon. Bye.